Hey, everybody. Welcome to Sama. I'm Derek Mazzoni. Sama is based in Seattle, and we are all going through the pandemic together, obviously. Some parts of the world are going through different things outside of the pandemic, and that part of the world that I'm talking about right now is Myanmar. I have been following Myanmar for many, many years, not just from a political, socioeconomical perspective, but from a perspective of music. I found some of the music coming out of the country to be truly transcendent and truly striking in its unique quality to open up the heart, as often we do here at Sama. And so, as things became more complicated there, I wanted to uh, kind of shine the light of Sama on the country and uh, record some artists who other friends turn me on to and put them on a show. And so today we have with us Myo Aung. He's a sandaya player, which is a Burmese piano. It's an upright piano. He's a full ride recipient with an MA in ethnomusicology from the University of Washington here in Seattle. He's now living in Yangon and Myanmar. He's also the dean of the Git Mayet Music Institute in Yangon. Now, Git Mayet means music and friendship. He began his piano studies with Umo Naying, Utet U, and Kit Young in 2003. And Kit is also going to be joining us here. She's a pianist, composer, improviser. She lived in Myanmar from 2003 to 2008 with many trips before to study Burmese Sandaya. Together with various Burmese colleagues, she started the Gitmayat Music Institute in 2003. These artists and scholars' work goes deep because on top of the running the Gitmayat school, they're also working on digitizing Burmese 78 records on a grant from the State Department. And also, Myo Aung is the Myanmar representative for the Thai Annual Music Festival, ASEAN. I'm hoping I'm not mispronouncing that, but here we go. Welcome, Kit. Welcome, Nemyo. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Joe.
Everybody sounding good. This is magic, obviously. You're in Yangon right now, and Kit, you're in DC. Am I
Right.
correct?
That's
And
right.
we're now together, and we're actually able to spend some time sharing the story of this music and sharing the story of what's going on. So there's a lot to cover, but first off, I did some research prior to this, and obviously for my show on KEXP. The upright piano was introduced by the British in the mid 1800s, I gather, and the one of the kings then asked musicians to apply this instrument to the traditional musical repertoire of the country. And I also realized that around that time, Burma was doing well because cotton was being sold all over the world because the Americans were having a civil war. So it was an interesting time where cultural influences and other things were coming in. Can you one of you please speak to that, the history of the instrument a bit?
So the British brought in, pianos were in India, and this was Greater India. And for churches, the British had some upright, small sort of harmonium-like keyboard instruments, and then also would import pianos for churches in what was called Anglo-Burma in the southern section. And then King Mindon in Inwa, Mandalay area, when he moved his palace to Mandalay, he was really curious about this instrument, and he instructed one of his ministers on a trip to London to look for one, and so he knew about it. And then the Italian ambassador in 1862 gave him a piano, an upright, and he asked the palace musicians, who were all incredible virtuosi on drums and gongs and kettle gongs and xylophone, padla in Burmese, to play it, to just use their techniques and their ear and their music. So an incredible oral tradition developed on this instrument. And in Burma, many instruments like that have been adapted from other countries, other cultures, and the Burmese sensibility about music making applied.
Okay, but There's something about it that I remember the first time I hearing that was like, this is really interesting. And music has that kind of power where it's just it can take you someplace else, and it can create a sense of like a mystery, not quite exotic, but like a mystery. Like I know this instrument, but it's being played in such a different way, and it's affecting me in a different kind of way. What is first of all, Kit? You what brought you to Myanmar in 2003?
So in 2003, it was my husband who was working for the U.S. Embassy. He was posted there, but on my own trajectory started a long time ago when I was a child growing up in Thailand, and my parents had a lot of Burmese friends, and I was familiar with Thai music and as a child and teenager, and then was very curious about Burmese piano, which I heard about from a musicologist who he was a writer, U Kin Zaw, who was also a broadcaster at the Burmese Broadcasting Service in the 50s. And I talked to him. I was there on a week trip in 1972, and he said, "You know what? You might really be interested in our piano." And I thought, what? And then discovered this incredible technique and that was not known, really kind of quiet outside of Burma, and then everything around it, the kinesthetic approach to the instrument, the sound approach to the instrument that came from some instruments that were in the ensemble called Saiwine, and the amazing ability of the hands and just melodically how to translate sound and aura, and what you say, Derek, which is so inspiring, the heart of the music making, right?
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
that's what brought me.
Thank you for sharing that. Nimio, what brought you to your path to music and this particular instrument?
I was grew up in the small township next to India. It's called Tamil. And since I was young, I was surrounded by the music from the monastery or from all those religious community. So when I finished my high school, I came to Yangon and to study music. Actually, my first ambition is to study Burmese music. At the same time, I have other many Burmese musicians or many young generation. I have kind of like mindset that Western music is superior and very systematic. So that's why I decided to study Western classical music first, and then later I switched to the Burmese traditional music.
Okay. Was there a moment when you realized, like, no, it's not superior, it's just different? And
Yeah, for sure, it's totally different. And still, I mean, now many people still believe, not just Western music, classical music, or Western music, but also any other kinds of music. They believe some kinds of music is superior to other kinds of music. So that's what we are trying to get rid of here, to educate people and to get more exposure for the younger generation to get in touch with various kinds of musical culture.
Okay, perfect. Let's hear a song, and then we'll want to hear more about the school and what's going on right now. So before we go, this is tell me about this piece. This is Tau Targi. What are we going to watch?
So the piece is called Dodaji. It is the songs that illustrate about the life of the village guy and about the city life and comparing with the village life. And was composed by Gita Tao. We call this music genre as Kikhao. You will see me singing with the traditional Saiwine Chundran circle ensemble.
Okay, perfect. Ansama, Seattle Sacred Music and Art.
လုပ်ငန်းတွေအောင်ဒီတွင်သာစွာတထာနာဟုကာမယထထမင်းကန်နှင့်ရေကန်သားရဟုတော်ရွာမှာမွေးပါလေလားလွမ်းစရာများတဲ့လွမ်းစရာပေါ်တဲ့ဆုံးတော်မြိုင်ကြီးစမ်းကြယ်လွမ်းပွဲစေဆုံးတော်မြိုင်ကြီးစမ်းကြယ်လွမ်းပွဲစေနန်းကြီးရွှေဘုံရိတ်ညုံကွာလာဝဲနန်းကြီးရွှေဘုံရိတ်ညုံကွာလာဝဲကြည်ရွှေတာရကပြောမြူကြရှာကြည်ရွှေတာရကကြည်ရွှေတာရကပြောမြူလေပြောမြူကြရှာဘာလာလို့တန်ညိုလေးနဲ့တန်ရင်ကျွေးဘာလာလို့ဘိုးလေးတန်ရင်ကျွေးဆုံးတော်မြိုင်ကြီးစမ်းကြယ်လွမ်းပွဲစေဆုံးတော်မြိုင်ကြီးစမ်းကြယ်လွမ်းပွဲစေနန်းကြီးရွှေဘုံရိတ်ညုံကွာလာဝဲနန်းကြီးရွှေဘုံရိတ်ညုံကွာလာဝဲကြည်ရွှေတာရကပြောမြူကြရှာကြည်ရွှေတာရကကြည်ရွှေတာရကပြောမြူလေပြောမြူကြရှာဘာလို့တန်ညိုလေးလေးတန်ရင်ကျွေးဘာလို့အိုလေးတန်ရင်ကျွေးရောလေးထွေးဆန်းရော်ဤကရံရောရွှေရံဘယ်မှန်တီပေါင်းမျောလေးထွေးဆန်းရော်ဤကရံရောရွှေရံဘယ်မှန်တီပေါင်းမျိုးဤပြာဤမရောက်ဘူးတဲ့ရောခင်မောင်ရင်ပြောပြတယ်ဒေါ်လာလဲဟုတ်နိုင်ပေါင်းခင်ရဲ့မျိုးဤပြာဤမရောက်ဘူးတဲ့ရောခင်မောင်ရင်ပြောပြတယ်ဒေါ်လာလဲဟုတ်နိုင်ပေါင်းခင်ရဲ့ချင်းနာတွေကိုအားရမယ်ရနာသုံးပါးချင်းညိုတယ်တရားစင်ဝဲလီကဝိုင်းနဲ့ကားလုံးတိုင်းကိုအစင်ခေါ်မယ်ဒီနာရဲ့ကြားလာရဲ့ဝ ဝေးတာရဲ့ရတာရဲ့ညီနာတွေရဲ့ကြားတာတွေရဲ့ဝေးတာတွေရဲ့ရတာတွေရဲ့အတွေ့ဟူမြရှောင်းငါရှာမယ်တကိုယ်ဒီပင်တော့ထွက်သွားမယ်ဘောရာကြီးပေါ်ကွယ်ဩငါကူအာယုံတွေဖဲကာမဂုဏ်ရုပ်ခွင့်လုတ်ကြအောင်ကျွန်တော်ယုံတော့မဲ
That is beguiling. Thank you for sharing that. I'm here with Myo Aung and Kit Young, live from Yangon. Tell me what that song was about.
The song is about the life of the villagers and about also like comparing village life with the city life. And this one was very famous and composed by Kit Young and originally performed by Myo Aung, one of the most famous film actor and singer.
Mm-hmm. How is this music received in the country right now? Because it's traditional music and there's a lot of pressure, as you were saying, from Western music and culture. How is this perceived? Is there a veneration for it, a resurgence? Because it feels like there's a one of the reasons I do the show is that I try to connect people to music in a way that helps them in their lives, and it feels like this music, if it's a description of life comparing one to the other, then there's a there's a but Myanmar is a beautiful, striking, beautiful place. Geographically, a lush place, and it feels like there's a connection to nature and music and art. How and it feels like this music plays a role in that. So how is it being perceived by people in the cities?
And in the city, there's some people who love this kind of music, but compared to popular music, it's not that much popular. But at the same time, if we compare to very classical Burmese music, what we call Mahagita, so this kind of music is lyricist. Of course, this piece composed right before World War II, so we call Kihao genre. So the lyrics is easy to understand. The melody is also easy to listen. So stay popular, but not like a hip hop or rap or any other kinds of modern music.
Yeah. That's fine. But is it you guys opened up the Get Mayet school, and so there's an opportunity there to have the generation that is coming up to discover this, and it's their legacy. It's you have this. Other types of forms are imported, but this is yours. Is there an attempt to get the kids hip to this stuff?
That was the original intent. I mean, not exactly to do that, but to have access, right? So we would have older musicians just come to the school and sit and have tea and coffee and talk every day. And that group of musicians was there so that younger musicians could see, but they were very interested, most of them, in learning skills of Western music so that they could play guitar, get gigs, sing. And that was important to them. Another consideration, which is really central to Burma, to Myanmar, is the many, many ethnic groups and languages and religions that are there. So in addition to the Buddhist majority, in Yangon, there are a number of Hindus, Muslims, and a greater number of Christians who identify their musical taste with Western music from the time they're small, singing in church. So for them, Burmese music it's fine, but it's sort of on the quaint side, and it's not. They feel like that's not their music, although of course they hear it all the time. But so there's it can escalate to tension, but mostly it's just okay. Yeah, there's that, but I'm not here for that. So we were trying to navigate all of these different aspects and personal taste, personal background aspects, to what we were doing. So we tried to include everything.
So there is a religious connotation to different musics that are going on, and one religion won't listen to or play the other music.
Myo, maybe you can talk about that.
Sort of, if you are, the Buddhist, you like someone like me. I grew up in the Buddhist community, so I was surrounded by all those traditional Burmese music and related to Buddhist, Buddhism, and also for some of my friends, especially in my hometown, we have many Chin ethnic, so they are listening to Christian music or some church music, choir singing, all those things. So they are more close to those Christianized music, and it depends on where you grew up and depending on your religious background. We have annual music traditional performing art festival. So most people are Burmese people who participated. But at the same time, there's some people who love this traditional Burmese music from ethnic region. So their parents, them not to participate because they worry that if you sing Burmese music, you also become a Buddhist, something like that. At the same time, also the same, for Gitami, many people believe this school is because we sing choir and Western music. They thought it's our Gitami is Christian school. So some Buddhists, parents don't want to send their kids to study with us. So all those connotations to music.
Oh wow, it's so complicated. Is there the instrumentation that we saw in this video, and we're going to see more music a little bit later, um, is can that be incorporated into other musical belief systems, or does that not work? Because it's like, if I had a setup like that, I don't care what, religious background you'd have, that's a great instrument and it sounds fascinating. But I'm wondering if there's like that kind of like, no, we need to have, Yamaha guitars, and that's the thing that we play here. Is there an adoption of these instruments on top of just the song structures that are added?
I would say not so much. That if you're thinking in a Western vein, Western melody harmony structures, you want the instruments that best express those pitch. I mean, there's temperament, tuning issues, and people say, "Oh no, I don't want to sing with a patwang because it's not tuned right." So again, another deep problem of cultural hegemony, or whose tuning do you use?
Yeah. Wow, that's really fascinating. It's also intriguing. I didn't know that there was that complexity worked its way even into the musicology of the country. And but I always look at it as an opportunity, because what better
Exactly.
way you get a chance to know somebody than through their music? Food, yes, one way, but it's like, it's, unless you're rigid beyond belief, and that's a whole other problem with you, um, it's such a way to accept other people, and because it just tickles. I don't know a better word for it, but it's like, wow, I'm really enjoying myself. Sometimes you dance, sometimes you flow, and the fact that it's different makes it so much. It's like, it took a little while. I remember like listening for the first time. It's like, okay, this is a while ago now. I love everything, but it was like, I don't know where to go here. Like I'm not. There's no hook. But then like, I don't need a hook because I'm surfing in a whole other way. And it's really beautiful the way it does, and so I applaud you guys for opening up the school, and I'd love to. We're going to be posting a link. So it's Get Mayet. You guys have a Facebook page, yes, and that's like the main process with that. Okay, we'll put a link to that on for you, and on top of this, well, we're going to go to a piece of music, and then you also have a series of digitizing Burmese musical history, a collection of 78s that are now a legacy. Can you speak more about this process? How did this come about, and where this is right now? Because I think it's super important, because we're losing that. We're in the 21st century, so it's like things are getting foggy. How did that process come about?
We both started it in the American Embassy. The ambassador had something called the Ambassador Cultural Preservation Project in 2008, which we applied for Gitamik, and we were able to fortunately get, which was and then another grant, community service grant. So we had two projects that were simultaneous. One was digitizing old 78s and tape cassettes, and the other project was, and it's still ongoing, interviews with elderly performers, not just musicians, but performers all over Myanmar and in different disciplines. And so Myo and Newintung, a longtime Gitamik faculty member and singer, we would go out and they would go out to all over and just collect these. So then I want to pass this on to Myo, because he's got the skinny on how we kind of came to do that.
Please.
It's all started with a kid, because when I arrived to Gitamik, my first intention is to study music, especially Burmese music, but because of because of the peer pressure, and also because of the mindset of us, I study Western music. At the same time, I'm keep listening, helping a kid when she was studying with her teacher, and when she's meeting with other musicians and composer. So I have been seeing them a lot, and I helping to record so that she can watch later. But after that, I think in 2007, one of the most famous Burmese pianists to whom our kid is studying, he passed away. So that's where we are really shocked. We thought that best time we have to do this project. Because people are dying, musicians, performers are dying, and there is no one who will go to them and ask about their experience. No one asks. We no great musicians, they don't even leave any image or performance. So that's why we decided to do this, and we got out from the embassy. Even though we, especially for me, I had no prior experience at all about interviewing things, archiving things. So, but we just find our best bit by bit, and we interview over 30 musicians, and right now maybe over 50 about their life, their experience. At the same time, we just go around the country and collect all those survey RPM records.
Where are these interviews? What's the process of making these things available to people that will be interested in them?
So that's a good question, because I'm the only one who is doing right now. So for that, going around the country and meeting people, shooting, I as some of my friends from school. But in order to capture, digitize those interviews and to make editing, so I couldn't do that much, and also because of the lack of the equipment. So in 10 years ago, before I went to UW, so we recorded with DV or mini DV tape, and now I still have those DV, and but our camera doesn't work anymore. So we just keep waiting, the time to get those equipment and transferring all those things. Right now we are using digital format. So I just put everything on my hard drive, and we just try to post on Facebook.
Okay.
But sometimes the musician, they requested, they for some privacy, but sometimes they just criticize very openly. So in that case, we just keep on the hard drive, and after they pass away, after things get better, we share with everyone.
Okay. So do you still have the funding to continue doing this? Do you guys need support? Do you need tools? Do you need
For sure.
what's the best way to for our viewers to go like, hey, I love this, I want to help this? Is there a you're a young gun, I don't know if you can set up a GoFundMe campaign, especially now.
We have a nonprofit, Gita Make Friends USA, that can take donations, and
okay.
I can give you that information afterwards.
Okay.
Something really important is to get the 78 collection out as much as possible. And so Myo had it on YouTube, but it got taken down because of some of the records were old Columbia Burmese records. So that was a sad story. But now, Myo, you're able to put a lot back on Facebook, right?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay. And there's other platforms too, look at Mixcloud and others, because this becomes really interesting. It's a new world right now, obviously. I sound so cliche when I say that, but it really is. There's other things. It could be on TikTok. It's like, okay, here we go. That's really, really beautiful, and it's good work. And it's powerful work because you're preserving and sharing a culture. Obviously things are in flux right now in Yangon, and we're glad that we're able to speak to you right now. But I'm curious, if you were to, how is this traditional, music and culture, how is it being perceived in a country outside of like preference, one or the other? Like, I'm Christian, I want Western music. I'm Muslim, I want this music. How is the legacy of your country and your culture perceived in at home right now? I'm hoping I'm asking this question the right way, but I'm curious how Burma, Myanmar's going into 21st century. We're all going into 21st century. So there's this legacy, this music that your particular choice of instrument was introduced in 1850. And so we're now moving into, the 21st century, fully in 21st century. I'm curious how this legacy is being perceived. Is there like a sense of like, yeah, this is us and we need this? Or is it like a curiosity?
I think in the future, I really hope it will get better and people will listen to more and more. Because sometimes we sometimes blame the young generation for not being interested in their own music. But at the same time, we have to look from a different point of view why they are not interested in their own music. because those musics are not around them, and they cannot listen it easily. They only hear all those K-pop or pop or hip-hop. That's around us, so it's easier for them to keep in touch with those music, their genre, and fan with those music. But for traditional music, they cannot find like that. Even for myself, like when I first study, I really love it, but what I really want to study is quite difficult for me to get and have resources. Like we don't have museum or library or internet archive, but because of the popularity of Facebook right now, is reachable to everyone, and so it's better access right now. That's why I choose the Facebook as a platform, because the Facebook is kind of like the internet in Myanmar, so everyone use it. So for my idea is yeah, we have to reach out and we have to send all those collections to all over the world. It's very important. At the same time, like we are here and there's many people who have never listened to their own music. Why don't we do that first? It's much easier for me. That's why we decided then to upload on Facebook and to share. So through them, like if I lost something, they might have it. They will download and they will listen to it, and after that, or maybe like at the same time, we can also reach to the outside of the country.
I think you will. There's the reason I brought up the young people of your own country, because is that as I've been doing this program, I'm finding that certain musical traditions actually do help people. It's like there's a there's a sacredness to it. There's a connection, whether you believe in a higher power or nature or community. And certain and other musics just don't do that. They're ego driven. They're just like they don't have a connection to the legacy of the history of this. I grew up in Poland, and anytime I hear old Polish village music, it kind of affects me in a different way. It's not that I love it, like, oh my God, I need it, but it's like, wow, I remember this. I feel like a connection that's almost transcendent in that way. And I find that, my own children, like, I know you didn't grow up there, but this is your dad's stuff. You have this heritage here. Listen to this, because it can kind of help in the future. And if you lose it, you don't have it anymore. Like, you had these, I'm going to be poetic right now. You had these wings that kind of lifted you up, but once the wings are gone, you're not going to, it doesn't work anymore. So anybody that's working in this space, I'm like, this is super important, because you don't know what you lost until you don't know what you had until you lost it. And for a whole generation, this is really good and important, and it's going to affect you in a way that you don't even know right now. So thank you for doing it. As somebody from Myanmar and carrying the tradition, but just as somebody who cares about the power of music, and for all of us out there continuing to do this work. So thank you. That's it. That's my speech.
Wow, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to have some more music right now, and thank you. Be safe, and I really appreciate this. But Kit, before we go for a second, it's still magical that we're doing this in Yangon right now directly. What can people, from your perspective, what can we learn about this, or what can we offer to people that are watching right now? Are there other resources if they're going to go deeper? I read your piece that you were interviewed for on the history of the Burmese piano. But are there other resources, other places people can go to if they get the bug and they want to know more?
Yeah, if you get the bug, just go straight to YouTube for various instruments. I mean, you can go to Wikipedia and look up Burmese instruments and then just plug them into YouTube, and then you can discover a whole world, whole universe through sound. I mean, of course, there's lots of research you can do and articles, but I think the first place to go is hearing voice, how the Burmese voice moves, and getting used to what the ensemble is like and the amazing rhythms that are transcendent, as you say, Derek, and just pull you into this heart space, right? Yeah. All the time, that are just like always lifting. So I would do that first. The ear first.
The ear first, because we're seeing, as soon as the difficulties in Myanmar started, I started playing music from that, and I found, there's the traditional pieces that came with piano, but also the harp. Smithsonian Folkways was releasing some work, and then most recently there's a slide guitar coming from there. So it's interesting. It's a it becomes an interesting story because most people just don't know. They just don't know
Right.
at all.
Right.
Nothing, zilch. And then they go and they find these things. And I didn't know that there was a slide guitar scene and evolving there. I didn't know about the history of the harp, but I didn't know. You read about the voice because I've been listening to a few artists right now. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And it works. It's just like clicks in. You're like, wow, I'm someplace else. So stuff is out there. You
Stuff is
can
out
find
there.
stuff. You can find stuff. And
Another place to go is, if you're really interested, go to Burmese classic movies, black and white movies from the 60s, 50s, and 60s that were black and white up until the 70s, and the background music for that is also a wonderful place just to taste this incredible rasa, or aesthetic of Burmese music. So thank you.
I love it. Okay, Nimyo, please be safe as much as you can, and continue doing the good work. And we're gonna watch some more music and say goodbye right now. So you be well, be safe, take care.
Thank you.